Hello friends, Horace Levy here again. This blog will be on the economy, employing not the labour and capital categories of professional economists, but arguing from concrete events. A rash venture seeing that I don't have even a high school diploma in economics. I'm only a former theologian turned journalist. Friends, I will be pausing these blogs for a few days to remember and celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ, Saviour of mankind, which is what Christmas means for me. The economy then. There is much long overdue talk about the economy in Jamaica these days, that it is not growing, that it needs to get moving. Data on the GDP is cited showing the low rate of growth, a small fraction of 1%, with next year's projected to be only barely better. This intense interest in the economy was stirred by a recent address of the Prime Minister, in which he spoke of a pivot to economic growth from the previous macroeconomic. The centerpiece of the macroeconomic over the past decade has been the financial, or more precisely, the fiscal dimension of managing development. A fresh thrust towards this was begun in 2013 under IMF direction by Peter Phillips and the PNP, and then continued by the JLP and Nigel Clark. The focus was on bringing the national debt down from a crippling 149% of GDP and controlling inflation, and establishing a management system for the whole fiscal sector of banking, stock exchange, investment, and so on. More or less ignored in this technical and successful process, or at least pushed into the background, was its impact on the economy as a whole. Look, for example, at the constraint on development imposed by the high interest rate relentlessly set by the Bank of Jamaica, which meant the unavailability of capital for business expansion, and why the business people objected to it. Or look at the bank's, BOJ's maintenance of an excessively high net international reserve, the NIR, that deprives the economy annually of $1 million, which would be better spent on development. A trade imbalance of $5.7 billion has been the result. The wider economic element has now, however, been brought up front by the high cost of living that most people are experiencing. Many barely survive, while a minority benefits from banks' huge profits and thriving big business. This was what produced the Prime Minister's pivot to the economy. His political fortunes are very much tied to success, prosperity he called it, in this department, as it were, as well as to success in the fiscal world. Economy in the broader department is the world of agriculture, industry, and tourism. Virtually nothing is being said about this in all the talk about the economy. A Gleaner editorial last week was the first thing in writing that I've seen. The reason for this reticence is very clear. No one on the establishment side is really interested in tackling the inequality and deprivation in society, and their roots in the lack of development of the country's productive potential. Much less would it want to admit that the source of this outcome was governments leaving it to the private sector to run things. It's laissez-faire or trickle-down policy. But as international experience has shown, very little trickles down from a sector concerned chiefly with its own well-being. General well-being is supposed to be the concern of governments, not theirs, they would tell us. A change in policy should therefore be on the table. The alternative to laissez-faire or to trickle down is for the states to exercise a systematic directing hand on agriculture, industry, and tourism. This is how countries like Singapore, South Korea, Japan, Taiwan have prospered. The few $100 million announced for this or that crop, or the placing of a tax on every tourist visitor, shows government's directive hand, but it's quite insufficient. A change in policy comprehensive of the entire economy is the very urgent need. I propose specifics for this in a series of earlier blogs, and shall return to them in another to illustrate what I mean. A change in policy comprehensive of the entire economy. That's the need. See you later. Have a lovely Christmas.